I'm David, I'm one of the developers of Scalar, and today we're introducing you to Scalar 2. So the premise of Scalar remains the same. What am I playing? And Scalar's correctly seen that I'm playing a variation of notes and chords and told me that I'm in C minor, C harmonic minor, F Dorian, F Ukrainian, Dorian scale, and so on. So now we can detect audio as well, and it's really just as easy as selecting audio as the source. Here's an audio file of some chords. Cool, and I can just drag that straight on top of Scalar. It's going to tell me that it's going to replace my current selection. Yep, that's great, and here it is. That's the chords of the audio file, which is really great. Okay, so now that I've got that audio detection, I'm going to drag that down into my pattern. Now I'm going to choose the big super saw. Cool, and I'm going to turn on the old arpeggio. Let's go for another sound. Let's go for Celestial Existence. Let's turn the ARP pattern to 16ths, and let's turn it to, say, double down. Yeah, one of the brilliant new features for me in Scalar 2 are expressions, and they're basically what we did is we went out to a bunch of pianists and musicians and we asked them how they would play a chord. We then extrapolated that information and came up with ways to be able to apply those performances to whichever chord you were triggering. Let me give you a demonstration. Just call up the C minor scale. I'm going to bind it here to keep this nice and simple. Yep, great. And now I'm going to turn on performances. So you can see that when I turn on expressions here, I have in this menu here, I can go to performances, phrases, and rhythms. We've categorized everything into adagio, espressivo, moderato, and vivace, and for phrases, con amore, con fuoco, con moto, con spirito. Now, you don't need to know Italian musical terms, but roughly they're basically indicating slowest and mellowest to liveliest and fastest. That's how we've categorized everything. So here we go. I'm just going to play that straight C minor chord with that performance on. And I go to the next one. Now the thing about performances is they're only using the notes from whatever chord you've selected. So I'm using the triad of C minor. You can see when I hit that, it's only going to play the notes of C minor. The differences from performances to phrases is that phrases play a melodic variation of that chord, something that's always compatible with your chord. So it's a really great way to come up with expressive melodies based on simple chords that you're playing. Let's have a look at some of the phrases. Let's go to con amore affabile. Now I'm going to move across to assai. So you can see the different melodic interpretations of that C minor chord. Yeah, really cool. So another thing that we've got here is you can play the phrases in chord-based or scale-based mode. Chord-based mode basically says that as you go up, the melody goes up too. So, for example, we go 1, 5, you can see the melody going up, melody coming back down, and 4. Now I'm going to switch into scale-based. It's going to keep the melody in the same position but move the chord, so it really allows for lots of harmonic variation. 1, 5, 4, back to 1. Of course, you can MIDI capture anything too. So let's say I'm going to hit MIDI capture and I'm going to record just the one chord. I'm going to stop that and I can drag that wherever I want. So right now I'm going to drag it across to a third-party instrument. Okay, so I've pulled that melody straight across. You can see it right there. That was the phrase that I was playing, and now it's playing into R. one of the great things, of course, about Scalar 2 is the ability not only to choose expressions and voice grouping, but I can humanize as well. And humanize is really nice because I can select some randomness in the velocity or the timing or both, and that gives for a really nice human feel. So if I clear that, MIDI capture that again. Now if I pull that MIDI file alongside the previous one and have a look at both of those files, you can see how the second one here has a randomization in the position and the velocity of notes. Of course, you can use Scalar to control any third-party VST. There's several ways you can route that, but in Logic, I've just loaded it here as a MIDI effect. I've also got it controlling Contacts Noir. If I come across to Scalar, I'm going to look for one of my favorite major scales. I'm going to go for E flat major. Okay, here's the chords for E flat major. I'm going to come across to expressions and I'm going to go to phrases and I'm going to select Colossale. Okay, I just want to show another really cool use of the scale-based mode. In scale-based, remember, it's keeping the melody the same and moving the chords up and down. Yeah, so it's making for some really nice harmonic variations. Scalar is fantastic particularly in Scalar 2. There are now hundreds of artists' chord sets made by all the artists that you see here, and genre-based chord sets made by musicians based on certain styles and genres. So let's go to some new chord sets. Let's go to Alexander Nettlebeck. Let's choose number 2. Let's go to one of the internal sounds and let's call up Celestial Existence. If I bind that area, so there's a really huge bank of chord sets and styles and artist base to get going straight away if you're looking for inspiration on writing music. I'm going to choose, let's go for the Wood Ensemble, and let's have a look at some genre-based chord sets. I'm going to go to Cinematic. I'm going to go to a couple of the new ones in Scalar 2. I'm going to call up Touching. Let's go to the staccato strings, a new sound in Scalar 2. And let's go to another cinematic preset. Let's go to Kingdom Come. To make this more interesting, I'm going to turn on, say, one of the performances. I'm going to come into Performances. I'm going to go into Espressivo Allargando. Okay, and now you can hear that performance applied with the staccato strings to the Kingdom Come chord set. Yeah, really nice. Let's go and find another chord set. Let's go into House. Let's choose House 7. And let's choose a different sound this time. Let's go in the hybrid section and choose the hybrid staccato. Okay, I want to talk about making melodies with Scalar 2. And one of the great things about Scalar 2 is the ability to lock keys according to what chords you're playing. So there's a bunch of profiles, but I'm going to look at chord extensions because it makes it really easy to come up with melodies. If I play my chord progression, let's say I play around with just these three notes. You can see Scalar's going to lock these according to which chord I'm triggering my left. So I can effectively just create patterns, can't I? So really nice way to come up with melodies. Another way to come up with variations on those chord progressions and come up with interesting phrases is to go into edit mode. So now I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to turn the keys lock off. And of course I can always just play the progression here. But one of the new things in Scalar is door sync. So I can right click the play button, and now if I hit play on my door, you can see that it'll trigger Scalar. Great. Now one of the fantastic things about edit mode is they can change what happens to each chord in the step. So for example, I can say I want the first chord to play with the expression or the performance adagietto. In the second chord, I'm going to turn on the arpeggio. And for the third chord, I'm going to select expression, and this time I'm going to go to a phrase and go con spirito amore. Cool, sounding good. So I might say for this chord, rather than put on some performance, I'm going to tell it to play for half the speed, so half the time, but repeat it by 2. I'm going to choose, let's come to our acoustic guitar. And of course we don't have to see it in keyboard view, we can see it in fretboard view, which is really cool. And of course we can change that, we can come to this last expression and we can change it to strumming, and I can go, let's go slower and let's make the timing random. Okay, I want to introduce this, I want to have a look at modulation. So let's come into one of the new sounds. Let's call up the choir sound. Let's go to scales. I'm going to look for that E flat major scale that I love, and I'm going to pull down, say 1, 3, 4, and 5. Pretty straightforward. Turn the voice grouping on. Okay, so let's say that's my tune and I'm playing around in E flat major. I want to do some modulation. I'll click on modulation and it'll show me the progression here. I can see the circle of fifths, so let's say I want to modulate to something. I'll do a fairly straightforward modulation to something fairly close. It should be straightforward across to the F major. Now I've got these nice key switches here, so I can use the key switches to switch between lanes. You can see me switching between lanes there. So here's my original progression. Now if I come to the bottom lane, I can hear what that progression sounds like in a new key. So this is what exactly the same progression sounds like in F major. And the middle lane gives me a suggested pathway. And these pathways have been written by leading composers and musicians, so they make a lot of sense. So I can now try and get from my original scale to my destination scale using the pathway. So original. Now I'll modulate using the suggested pathway and arrive at the destination scale. Yeah, so really brilliant ways to come up with nice and easy modulation. I want to have a look at some of the other modulation presets. There's lots in here, and we're making some workflow videos just so you understand exactly how it works. But let's say I come into immediate modulation and I go brass ensemble. What this does is these are artist-written preset. So you trigger a chord and it'll come up and tell you a bunch of other options that don't necessarily fit a scale but fit a certain pattern to ensure that you're coming up with really unique and stylistic key changes. So I can go E flat major, I'm going to choose C major, A minor, F major, and then I've come up with just a real unique chord progression. I look forward to making more workflow videos for you, and we hope you enjoy and love Scalar 2.